Before this video begins, I'd like to give a huge thanks to my channel members, who you can see on screen now. Become a member by hitting the join button and get your name here among other awards today. Hello there and welcome back to another edition of Silly Car Showdown. Today, we are taking a look at the 1997 Mazda RX-7 FD. This car was requested by Lotus Enduro GT and it was actually one of the very first cars requested to this series. This one has been waiting in the wings for a while, but I'm finally getting around to taking a look at the RX-7 FD. Of course, we've had quite a few of these rotary engine Mazdas take on the course. We've had the FC RX-7, we've had the RX-8, and in fact we've even had a Nissan with a rotary engine in it. This, however, while it is a rotary engine car stock, will not be keeping its rotary engine because Lotus hates us all and he wants to see the world burn. He has a specific engine swap in mind for this car, and while our choices are the 6.2 litre V8, the Turbo Rally, and the 4-rotor, and he wants to stick in the V8 because heard LS swap an RX-7, oh dear. I guess for authenticity we'll supercharge it. However, this car does have two white body kits, which is weird. Most cars usually only have one. We have the option of this sort of generic-y looking Rocket Bunny kit, and then we have the option of my personal favourite, this Boss kit, I believe it's called, that gives it sort of an RX-free front end. It looks very ridiculous. I like it a lot, so that's the one we are going to go with. I believe this one also has the option of a wider arches as well, which is nice. Also, we can get the Rocket Bunny wing on without it being an adjustable piece, so we will put that on there. Of course, being a wide body does mean this thing should get wider tyres. In fact, it definitely does. 305s on the front are very encouraging, and 325s on the rear are also pretty darn encouraging as well. Alright, this thing should actually make some pretty serious power as well. I believe this V8 usually makes around about 1,000 horsepower. The stock car makes 261, I believe, from a turbocharged 2-rotor engine. Of course, there are two versions of the FD RX-7 in the game. You have a choice of this one, the 97, or the one that we got in the very first week of the car pass, I believe, which was the Spirit R. The Spirit R does not have the same wide body kit options. I would kind of like to have a look at that car at some point because it is a very cool looking car, the Spirit R. But I'm assuming most people still prefer to go for this 97 car just because it has got a little bit more you can do with it in terms of body kit customization and so on and so forth. We are up into S2 class already, which is a good sign. Yeah, still climbing PI quite steadily as well. The actual stat bars themselves aren't particularly increasing, but then again they don't usually anyway. S2 915, for the 8 horsepower I won't put that on. And then finally, lightened flywheel. S2 915, 1006 horsepower, 834 foot-pound torque, 2,665 pounds of weight. Of course, 7 litre V8 now. 3.5 seconds 60, top speed of 187 miles per hour. That does worry me a bit in terms of gearbox, but that being said, I'm assuming it'll be okay on this. I wouldn't see any reason why it wouldn't be. Maybe I'll have to have a little play around with that before we go driving. I'll let you know if I do end up doing that or not. I probably won't. I'll just sort of see as the crow flies. We don't really get above 190 miles an hour on our track anyway. In fact, no car even has. Not even the Lotus Elise GT1. Also requested by Lotus, ironically enough. But yes, the RX-7 FD. It certainly looks war ready. The question is it battle prepared? Well, here we are in our Mazda RX-7, ready to set 5 laps to see the best time it can possibly set. Our current leader is the God tier Lotus Elise GT1. That's at a time of 131.216 question mark. The Mazda unlikely to beat that. However, the Mazda is pretty likely to do well. The S2 915 does give me quite a bit of confidence in this car, it has to be said. I'm expecting somewhere sort of above 146, slightly below 143, maybe. Below, sorry, above 143. Somewhere between 143 and 146 is what I'm trying to say. Because, in theory, with the tyre sizes this has got, with the power it's got, and all the rest of it, this should be a very darn quick car. And also, because it wasn't an option, I'm assuming this body kit does in fact give this car some front end downforce as well, so it should be able to go ahead and be good. However, the snaking on that does not fill me full of confidence. These are 315 tyres, so they should be able to put up, at least semi-put up, with the power going through the rear wheels. That doesn't help, although this is the first lap, so this lap does not matter in the slightest. We can cock this lap up as much as we want, because it was never going to be quick, because this is a rear-wheel drive car, and rear-wheel drive cars do not launch particularly well, especially when they have 1006 horsepower. And they were designed to deal with 250. So far, I'm not sure. It feels a bit boatish, it has to be said. It does feel quite heavy. I guess that's sort of one of the disadvantages of this big 6.2 litre V8, is it is quite a heavy-ish engine. You know, not the most efficient. Does make everything feel a bit bruisey, and also, of course, because it's got so much torque, it can rip the rear wheels and get them to do their own sort of song and dance quite easily without much of a poke from you, so you do have to be mindful of that. Anyways, first lap to see what this thing is really made of. Does seem to get pretty well under control once you know what you're doing with it. You see there, the torque sort of, I don't know if it's the torque or the power or what, it sort of threw the rear end for a loop. I caught the rear end, and then the car went wide because the front end finally caught up with what the rear end was doing. Yeah, it doesn't actually feel quite as nice as I was really expecting it to. It's a little bit wayward. It's a bit uncontrollable, it has to be said. I don't know if this had anything to do with the gear ratios. I did not, by the way, just for the record, I didn't actually do anything to these. They are short, I will give them that, but again, I mean, in terms of this track, you don't really need anything too long, but maybe that's sort of what this V8 needs, is sort of big long gears so it can build up its power gradually instead of it all sort of coming on in one giant clump. Well, that's kind of where I put supercharger on it to see if that would sort of mitigate some of the turbo lag and get this thing to be a little bit more stable. But yeah, stable isn't really a word I would use for this car right now, it has to be said. Which is a bit of a shame. But we've still got plenty more laps to see if we can improve our driving with this thing. A 150.851, hardly the quickest time in the books. I need an odd 4 seconds to get close to my target time, which I'm not sure if it's going to be able to do. Might actually sit in sort of the 147 purgatory at this rate, or 147, 148. There's quite a lot of cars that hang around that sector. Surprisingly enough, cars that are usually a lot higher PI than this, so... In fact, actually, this car does need to do a little bit better, because otherwise it's going to lose out to the FC RX-7, which ran its stock engine, which had all of 480 horsepower, so... Yeah, this 1000 horsepower behemoth should do a little bit better. Ooh, there we go. 149. Little bit of a drift, little bit of a disconnection. Again, it's just sort of the slightest bad tap on the throttle, and it will go round. Usually with tyres this big, that would mitigate that, so... It's probably quite evident the chassis doesn't really... Well, it can't cope with it. You gotta remember, the standard sort of RX-7 is a very, very light car indeed. The engine, sort of rotary engines and gearboxes and so on, they aren't the lightest of things, so that does sort of bump the weight up on these RX-7s, but the actual sort of base body structure of these cars is actually pretty darn light, so yeah. That's probably not helping the car in this aspect. And of course, these V8 engines aren't particularly heavy either. 148.944. I think that does make us quicker than the FC Fanana, which is something, but again, would like a little bit more pace out of this. That was pretty good first section though, it has to be said. I don't think the conditions here are helping this car either. you know, rear-wheel drive 1,000 horsepower. Do you really want that on the sort of snowy, icy type streets? Probably not. But we do it anyway, because why not? Ooh, there we go. A little bit of a stretch around there. Yeah, it's... you can sort of see it does like to go sideways. Then again, there's another thing these cars are kind of famous for, is their sort of slightly wayward nature. So, I guess maybe that was to be expected, but I don't know. I kind of wanted a little bit sort of more control out of this. And I thought that's what I was going to get, honestly, when I saw the tyre sizes and so on and so forth, but apparently not. I mean, I don't know what this would be like with a different engine in it, or even the stock motor built up, but even then, I mean, I don't really... like I said, I assumed tyres would be able to handle this, so... I don't know, man. Oh god, there we go. Try and get ourselves stopped as we go into this uphill section here. This is going to be a quicker lap by the looks of it. Bomb it down to the finish line. 1:47.556. Okay, I believe that makes us quicker than the 240SX. That would trap it in the 1:47 purgatory. But, you know, there's worse places to be. And to be fair, that was a very quick lap. I don't know if I can do much better on this one. Especially when the car wants to go that way, apparently. That really doesn't help. Ooh, there we go. Come on. Yeah, it's not good. It has to be said. Much like LS swapping your RX-7 in real life, I can safely determine this is not good. The car doesn't like you for doing it, and the car wishes you wouldn't. Just leave it alone. Leave the rotary in it. The rotary is nice. The rotary makes good, smooth, controllable power. This V8 just makes power whenever it wants, and then spits you into a ditch. It's not a good engine. It's not a good fit for this car. It really doesn't suit it with any reasonable measure, and I wouldn't recommend it. So there you go, that's sort of my thoughts on that. Just, if you're thinking about sticking a V8 in your RX-7, don't. Don't even dare. Don't even fucking dare. In fact, again, if it's not a rotary, don't do it. There's a reason we're supposed to like these cars. The R stands for rotary, probably. Anyways, as we come up towards the finish line one last time, this is not going to be any quicker because we had that cock up sort of towards the start where the car decided it wanted to go a completely different way to the way the track actually is. I'm kind of glad we did manage to get one good lap out of this, otherwise this really would have been a very, very disappointing time, but with a 1:47.556, it's only minorly disappointed. It's not massively. We smashed through a bunch of bins, which is ironic considering that's probably where this should end up. Yeah, it's a shame. Again, I like the RX-7 a hell of a lot, but this engine, it just does not suit this car in the slightest. It doesn't make for a good car. It probably makes for a good drift car, don't get me wrong. It slides quite happily, but that's not... being a good drift car is not being a good race car. It's being a good drift car. Being a good drift car wins you nothing. Being a good race car wins you lots of things, like money and cars. Anyways, with a 1:47.556, that will put it into... Actually, no, it doesn't beat the 4-rotor SX. It goes into 38th place. It goes in between the Nissan 4-rotor SX, for which it is not that far off, admittedly, but it is still off it. It's only slightly quicker than the V8 Taxi, which I think actually had quite a lot of the same issues this did. It's quicker than the Limo, the RB Mustang, the V12 Cadillac Yacht, the Morgan Super Sports. Yeah, a little bit of a disappointment. Also, interestingly enough, it's actually down on the RX-8 as well. That's kind of amusing. But yes, that's the V8 swapped RX-7. My advice is don't. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching this edition of Silly Car Showdown. As always, if you'd like to request cars for this series, you can do so down below in the comment section, or on the Discord, link down below. in the description. And as always, thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.